Hey there, welcome back to our Harkla YouTube channel. We're so happy to have you here today. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jessica. We are the Certified Occupational Therapy Assistants with Harkla, and today we're going to talk about the difference between passive and active testing and exercises for primitive reflexes. Really quick, we want to let you know about our Harkla holiday sale going on now. You can save 15% on physical or digital products with Harkla. Plus, if you shop before December 13th, you're guaranteed free shipping before Christmas when you purchase one of our physical sensory products. Go to the link below and start shopping.
So inside of our full digital course, we teach you and we teach our customers and our clients how to test for retained primitive reflexes. So we're teaching them a variety of ways to go through movements, and really what we want to focus on today is discussing the difference between active and passive testing. So having the child do the movements and then we're watching them, and then having us physically move the child in these different positions and seeing what the reflexes look like in that regard.
Yeah, and we get questions about this sometimes in regards to testing as well as when they are completing the exercises, and we have people ask, is it okay if I'm moving my child through the movements, or do they need to be doing it on their own? So that's really the difference here, is when the child is actively completing a movement for testing primitive reflexes, we kind of get a better idea of their range of motion, what their body is going to do naturally during these exercises and activities. Whereas if we are passively, say we're testing for the ATNR, and we are passively moving the child's head side to side, oftentimes it's not as accurate, not all the time. But oftentimes we don't get to see the full picture of what the child is actually doing with their eyes, what their whole body is doing, because they don't have that same brain-body connection as if they were doing it on their own.
Exactly, like Jessica mentioned, the eyes are a very important part of these primitive reflexes. So when the eyes are moving in a certain direction, we're watching what the rest of the body is doing in these different testing positions that we're doing with the child. If we're just passively moving the child in these different positions and their eyes aren't actually connecting, like Jessica mentioned, that brain-body connection, we're not going to see that full picture. You know, if a child's sitting at their desk at school and they turn their head, that active movement is going to show us like what the other side of their body is doing, or they look up. Those types of movements are just going to give us a bigger picture of what functionally is being impacted.
Keeping in mind that there are a couple of reflexes that we test for where the reflexes are activated by outside stimuli. So for example, the Moro reflex is often activated by a head drop or a loud noise, or the palmar grasp reflex is activated by pressure or stimuli to the hand. So those specific reflexes, we don't look at this as much active versus passive. It's more the TLR, the ATNR, the STNR that we're looking at making sure when we do testing, we're watching what the child is doing on their own actively, and then also when we are having them complete the integration exercises, ideally we want the child to be doing the exercise themselves actively with as little movement or help from us as possible.
And if you're not to that stage yet of having the child do these activities independently, that's okay. Just know that that's the end goal. That's what we hope. That's when we see more progress, is when the child is completing those activities independently.
So if you are getting ready to test your child or your clients for retained primitive reflexes, and you're wondering, if my client isn't able to follow the instructions for the test for the ATNR because they have auditory processing disorder or they have motor planning challenges, do I go ahead and passively move them through the movements? Is there a different way to do it? Is it good, bad? What do I do? I think the answer, unfortunately, is not super cut and dry.
No.
There's a lot of variables here. Oftentimes when we're testing, we do passively move the child through, but we always start with having them do it actively, because those motor planning challenges are often an indication of retained primitive reflexes themselves. But also for the ATNR and the STNR test, you can have an object that you hold in your hand that you move in different directions that the child can visually follow. So they're still doing the exercise actively, even if they can't follow your commands to do the movement.
Exactly. So when you are going through the testing protocol, like Jessica mentioned, just to reiterate, start by having them visually track these objects in these different positions in order to get an idea of the reflex actively when they're moving through these different positions. And then make note of that, and then you can go ahead and passively move them and help them go through these motions to get just an idea of what it looks like passively. And notice the changes and notice what you're seeing differently. Maybe there's no response when they are doing it actively, but it's because they only turned their neck a little bit.
Right, they have a really short range of motion.
But if we can passively help them get all the way to end range, then we'll see maybe that elbow bending or the elbows collapsing, whichever reflex that we're testing. So keep that in mind, where we definitely want to try to include both whenever possible, just to get that full picture. And keep in mind doing the screening process beforehand as well, so that way you can see what reflexes are likely impacting them from a functional standpoint, you know, because if you have a reflex like the ATNR that functionally you're like check, 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 yes, this reflex has got to be retained, and then you're testing them actively and then you're hardly seeing a response, and then passively you see a big response. Like, there's just a lot of variables here that we want to take into account. I know this is very wordy, but hopefully that makes sense of what we're trying to get across.
And if it doesn't make sense, then maybe some of our other videos will be helpful in understanding what we're talking about with these specific reflexes, what we're talking about when we are talking about functionally and what that means. We do have other YouTube videos where we go more into depth on those topics, so it's a little bit easier to digest.
Yeah, and if you do want to learn how to test for each of the reflexes, how to integrate them, how to functionally include these activities into your daily routine, then definitely check out our digital course. It has everything that you need. It's 10 hours long. It includes AOTA CEUs for our OT practitioners. We will link it in the description below.
If this video was helpful on understanding the difference between active and passive testing and exercises, let us know. Like this video, leave us a comment, make sure you subscribe, and share the video with a friend.
And if you're needing more ideas, more content, then definitely check out our podcast. It's All Things Sensory by Harkla. You can find it on video, on YouTube, on Spotify, on iTunes, all the things.
All the places.
Yeah.
And then make sure you're following us on social media. We're at Harkla_family, as well as at All Things Sensory podcast.
And with that, we'll plan on seeing you next week for another video.
Okay, bye. Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it to it. How's the her?
Go like this. Okay, you got it. Okay. And then you do the same.
Damn it.